What's going on? It's your man Diamond K, of course, the Diamond K Show on firebroadcasting.com. And last night we had the chance, the pleasure, the privilege to witness a No Limit versus Cash Money battle, celebration, concert at Complex Con 2025 in Las Vegas. It was interesting. And there was so much to talk about. Hip hop history was on full display in Las Vegas as the two Southern rap titans stepped into the ring, onto the stage. We saw Master P and Birdman's labels. The venue was the giant pop culture festival at Complex Con. Now, the first thing that I want to highlight, to comment on, something that it really weighed on the entire presentation for the evening, and that was the crowd. You had, younger folks that probably were not around for, the 90s and the early 2000s when these labels were really rolling. And so I think that the energy from the crowd, I wasn't getting the energy that I wanted, but oftentimes we'll see that, whether you're in a nightclub and folks are just, engaged in their phone and not in what's happening in the club, at the party at the moment. That is something that really weighs on these live performances when the crowd energy is not where it's supposed to be. And I also think that the artists were too far away from the crowd, right? So they had the stage where everybody was standing on, and then they also had this additional stage. And it seemed like a lot of the guys were nervous to walk down the steps and go to the stage that was closer to the crowd, which would have brought more energy. It happened at times, but there were moments where I'm like, go down the steps, get on the stage that's in front of the crowd, get that energy there. And it didn't happen often. But what we saw, I think that a good thing for the evening was the comeback of the hit series Versus after a 3-year hiatus. Now, we got more than nostalgia. We got a vivid reminder that the South built its own lane and it still rules it. From the opening seconds to the final rounds, No Limit and Cash Money didn't just play hits. They unlocked memories, egos, and cultural touchstones, and the raw power of the independent hustle. That is something that always rings when I think about No Limit and Cash Money. The show began with clear intention. Master P brought out the big guns. The Colonel acknowledged the shared New Orleans roots and the empire building that the two labels achieved. Clearly, there was tension over the years between Master P and Birdman. And while I feel that Master P was willing to extend the olive branch, Birdman at times seemed like he was on that old stuff, right? But the crowd roared, the tank imagery blinked, and we were off. Who won the battle? Right. So it's call it a celebration because you want to keep people, not people get too riled up. But without Lil Wayne coming out, because there was a moment where I think that even Juvenile and BG thought maybe Wayne's going to come out, but Wayne did not come out. They played this song. It's just weird. But Juvenile, clearly a star, has hits. And I think that ultimately, because there was no Lil Wayne appearance, that No Limit, I think, wins this. So how can we say otherwise? Juvenile, of course, we got 400 Degrees and great song, right? Great album. the No Limit Soldiers song. So we get round one, and these were great records. These were great records. I just think that, as always with the verses, the playlist, right, the song selection is key. So Big Timers, the Still Fly song, and Master P did Break You Off. That's one of, it's hard to say, right? It wasn't necessarily an underground song, but it was at the same time, right? So it was a mainstream song in the South, but nationwide, it was not well known. But in those key areas in the South, it was. But Break You Off, Master P's second song choice, it was not a hit on the terms of Still Fly by the Big Timers. And so what these two labels represented, I think, are the different sides of music. Master P had some big hits, but there were more underground hip hop anthems. Now, Birdman and Cash Money's approach was to go for those bigger mainstream records. And so when you compare it, it seems like, okay, Cash Money got more hits, right? But it was so much more to it. BG's Bling Bling versus Silk the Shockers, It Ain't My Fault. Both were big records, and this is down in round 7. I thought that Bling Bling, just the terminology is something that was adopted in hip hop at the time, and It Ain't My Fault I think was a bigger record, but the word bling bling is something that is, used in hip hop culture. So you got those two things. Another round 10, Big Timers, Get Your Roll On versus Master P's Make 'Em Say, both were big records. It was interesting. Master P's camp was deeper, right? Cash Money, of course, brought the hits and big moments, but there were questions about why Lil Wayne wasn't there, and Turk, and because Mia X over the years has had issues, it seems like, with Master P and Romeo, but they worked those things out. And they at least appeared on the stage. And I wish that Wayne and Turk had appeared. Now, some people are saying Nicki and Drake and Tyga, they weren't going to be there. And they're more Young Money than they are Cash Money, even though Birdman has a tendency of putting his arm around somebody and kind of incorporating their wave into his. He's doing it real heavy with NBA YoungBoy. And I think that more so happened with Young Money. I think that Young Money is Wayne's thing, right? And if you have a Young Money versus somebody, maybe Wayne shows up, right? If you have Lil Wayne on his own thing, maybe he shows up. There's been a long documented up and down relationship between Birdman and Wayne over money. And ironically, Cash Money having trouble with money. Yeah, interesting, right? It's fascinating, but I thought that it would be great if Wayne showed up. But when we look at it, I'm not surprised that he didn't. I think that, there were some surprise cameos, right? We got to see Snoop Dogg, which a lot of people were happy to see him. I thought that he represented well for himself. The imagery of the No Limit tank and the camo uniforms were just a reminder of the label's branding genius. It is something that Cash Money did not use, right? They weren't unified in their clothes. It was just like they just had on anything. I guess the only unified thing is that we're going to have on jewelry, right? We got our platinum chains on, and that was probably the only thing. the absence of Lil Wayne from his performance role really raised questions. And if Lil Wayne had showed up, that would have completely tipped the balance for Cash Money. It did not. And it was more so the groups, the camps were paying homage, and I'm glad that it wasn't an all-out war. The producers of Versus really emphasized the fact that this was a celebration of the legacy rather than a pure head-to-head rivalry. And I think that that was very smart to do. I'm glad that they framed it that way. The night reaffirmed that Southern hip hop, long considered a regional force, occupies international and enduring dominance. So there's no way that you can revisit this night without being happy, even though there were some points that we wanted to see, right? There were some things that we wanted. No Limit, founded by Master P in New Orleans in the early 1990s. He built a high volume release strategy, very aggressive branding. We're talking about the tank, the military uniforms, the tight in-house family of artists. There were cousins that were involved in production and just involved in the crafting of things. The brothers involved in the TRU and the whole No Limit. It reflected in projects like Ghetto D and The Last Dawn. One thing that I did notice is that some of the songs, and I played No Limit and Cash Money early. I was a DJ that was playing these records early. I was probably the first DJ in Baltimore playing these artists. And this is at a time when it was very New York heavy here. And folks would look like, why are you playing this? And slowly it started to creep up here in Baltimore and further north. And so I remember a lot of these records, most, but some of the songs did not hold up as well as you would have expected. The test of time. I thought the Cash Money's songs held up better as it relates to over the years. But all in all, I think that without the inclusion of Lil Wayne, the absence of Turk, so we did not get a full Hot Boys reunion. We just got 2 of the 4 members. So I think that is important here. And I give No Limit the slight edge because of the inclusion of Snoop. And the other thing that Cash Money did that was a misstep is they played a Lil Wayne song. They played a Millie, right? And then, so if Wayne had popped out, that would have killed it. And he could have just popped out and left. And that would have been fine. He's made appearances before, but that didn't happen. And so it was more glaring that they played a Millie and then there's no Wayne, and nobody on the stage had a verse in that song. So there was no need to play that song. But New Orleans' own Birdman and his brother Slim, probably 1991, founded Cash Money. Now, they stayed underground and, had success in the South. But in the late 90s, they really popped off, right? With Juvie, Back That Ass Up, which we got to hear. BG, Wayne, of course, Manny Fresh. So whether you're talking about the Hot Boys, whether you're talking about the Big Timers, whether you're talking about the solo releases of all the artists had solo releases, members of the Hot Boys, even Birdman as a member of the Big Timers. They really had that glossy bounce influence production, the bling culture, major crossover hits, long-term influence, and of course, there were other artists that came through Wayne's Young Money imprint that are some of the big artists, the Drakes, the Nickies, that we could also trace the lineage to Cash Money. But there were no performances from them. And I did not expect, because these artists can stand in their own right. Versus is continuing. And so these artists, we may see them further down the line in other appearances. So no formal battle between No Limit and Cash Money. So the whole time I'm watching this, I'm thinking these guys need to get together and do a tour. A tour is what needs to come out of this. Now, a tour could bring some of the heavy hitters out. But a one-off performance at a convention in Las Vegas is not going to generate enough money to bring out the big guns, as we call it, right? So hopefully these guys and gals see that a nationwide tour would be the way to go. That is what I hope happens. But this revival, this celebration, they need to take this on the road. That is what should happen. They should take this on the road. There were a lot of songs that I would have loved to have heard. Obviously, Mystical's in jail, so we couldn't hear from Mystical. That was something that would have really set it off. He has some standout verses on a lot of this, and if he can get himself together, that would have been great. I would have loved to have heard Wobble Wobble. We didn't hear that. The absence of Lil Wayne takes so much off the table. I wish we could have really experienced that, but you never know what's going to happen. There were over 20 defined hits that were performed, celebrated. There was some call and response moments. I mean, the slow motion, that was lit when he did that song and back that ass up, obviously. Big. The catalogs of both labels still crush. The format of verses still works. And for one night in Vegas, the two logos side by side on stage, it was definitely historic. And so No Limit's performances, especially in the 90s, often featured that big crew on stage, high energy chants and No Limit Soldier branding. Cash Money's performances usually leaned into swag, bounce driven beats, flashy visuals, and that crossover appeal. But both labels proved that their songs continue to resonate decades later. And the celebration I really liked. So No Limit's strengths, the street cred, the volume of output, collective branding, and bold visuals. It was raw, more militant energy in many of the tracks, and just a strong independent model that inspired many Southern-based labels. Cash Money has their own strengths. They cross over mainstream success, a glossier production, and just the bling aesthetic is something that resonates in hip hop. Strong influence on modern hip hop's look and language. Big stars, of course, who transcended the label, Juvenile, and later on Lil Wayne. Both of these labels rooted in New Orleans, the Southern culture helped shift the center of hip hop Southernward. And both catalogs remain heavily sampled, referenced, and celebrated today. Both of the Live Legacy moments show that their franchises weren't just temporary. Both of these labels built movements, and that in itself is a great thing. So all in all, I was disappointed because I didn't see Lil Wayne. I'm just going to be honest. I was expecting, hoping for that. Had that happened, Cash Money would have been the hands down winner. Since that did not happen, I really think that No Limit edged out. But all in all, the real winners of Versus are the fans who got to see that. Hopefully these guys will put together a tour. I don't know if it could go a lot of dates. Birdman just just had a moment where he, we've seen outbursts from Birdman in the past. And there was one moment where he was talking about he started this, that, and somebody took the mic from him. I think it was BG. I'm glad that happened because he was getting ready to mess up the whole moment. And then also another just something that was just distracting at many points in time. That was Tamar Braxton on the stage. What was going on with that? Of course, we know that Birdman is married to Toni Braxton, and we just saw Tamar Braxton on the stage. Just weird. It was just kind of weird. I don't know what's going on there. But all in all, we put respect on both names, both labels, No Limit, Cash Money. And it was interesting. It was interesting. But I think that she was trying. I felt like she was trying to get attention and just doing too much. She was, linked in arms with Birdman and wiping sweat from his head. Kind of weird, right? Kind of weird. And then what are you doing up here? Like, what are you doing up on the stage? It just, I don't know. I don't know. It is interesting. And one thing Cash Money did is bring more attention, bring more light to things that you don't need to bring light to. Tamar being on the stage and too cozy with Birdman, it reminded us that they secretly got married, filed for divorce, and then dismissed the petition. It's just, I don't know, a lot of weirdness. I am hoping that everything is fine with these two. The other thing that Birdman did that kind of threw me off is the tension between Turk and Birdman is still a thing. Obviously, we had to get over the absence of Lil Wayne. It would have been nice, but at one point, Birdman, takes the moment to reflect on things and just kind of shouted out BG, Wheezy, Juvenile, and then dissed Turk. I don't know. It was kind of weird. But if you're unaware, Turk launched legal action over Cash Money disputes concerning their reunion tour. And it seems the issue was more with promoters and talent agencies and booking agents than actually with Cash Money specifically. So that is more so what's going on. But there also have been some longer standing tensions between Turk and Cash Money. The more so Birdman. He said, shout out to Turk, you little B, you ain't here, but F you. Stunner remarked concerning Turk, we gonna F with you when we gonna F with you. You heard me. We gonna F with that B when we gonna F with him. And that's another movie, he says. Yeah, so I wish that Birdman had kind of, I don't know, kind of kept that private, right? He should have kept that private. There was no need to even bring that out. Yeah, I really think that sometimes Birdman just lets things get to him too much. And, that's what I got to say about that. But all in all, I think No Limit wins ultimately because there were some key things missing from the Cash Money presentation. But if we just view this as it is meant to, as a celebration, hip hop wins. We got to see and hear some of our favorite songs from back in the day, and the possibilities there for future things. And I hope that is what we get. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, at The Diamond K Show. Of course, on YouTube, hit me up. I'm DJ Diamond K. Also on Substack, I am diamondk.substack.com. Of course, as always, onfirebroadcasting.com. Anywhere you get your podcast, make sure you subscribe and share The Diamond K Show. And I will see you guys next time.